to my beautiful Coffee with Kelly community. I have missed you since our last episode, and if we haven't had the opportunity to meet yet, I am your inspirational barista, Kelly Merbler, and I am so excited to be back in the studio with you all today. I am enjoying this delicious hot latte. Today, I felt like a Dunkin' Donuts mood. So today, I will be sipping on the Dunkin', and hopefully you are listening to this, enjoying your favorite hot or cold beverage, whatever it is. And before we get started, because I have been wanting to have this conversation for quite some time, I am here to just remind you, if you are new to the Coffee with Kelly community, we will be releasing a brand new episode the second Wednesday of every month, and make sure you subscribe on YouTube or Spotify. And one other exciting announcement that I wanted to put out to my community is that on October 16th, this fall, I have, for the fourth year in a row, my Leadership Development Day conference. So Live to Lead South Florida will be back on October 16th at the beautiful club at Quail Ridge. And if you are a leader or someone that is hungry to grow and you're looking to be surrounded by people who are learning, growing, and have a lot in their growth journey to share and help you be a better leader, then this is the conference you want to be in the room for. So we do a full day event. I will put the link for details of the conference below, and I hope you can join us at this year's Live to Lead South Florida 2026 on October 16th. So let's hop into it. I have been thinking about doing this conversation. I'm kind of in awe that I'm still having this conversation because it is something that I challenged myself with this year. This year for me, like maybe it is for a lot of you out there, I really wanted to be intentional about taking myself to the next level of my growth. And I'm not going to lie, it's easy to do even when we're having success in our lives. And don't get me wrong, just because I have success doesn't mean I have failures. I do have more failures than I do have successes. But I felt I was getting complacent in my growth journey. And I said this year, I'm going to do things that I haven't done before and really challenge myself to stretch, to grow, to try something new. And I didn't plan on this. It came at the moment it was supposed to come in my life. And I'm going to start our conversation with the word I'm choosing for today's conversation. And today's conversation word of the day is going to be stretch. So how are you stretching yourself in your growth, in your life, and in trying new things to be the best version of who you were meant to be? And today we are talking about TEDx. Now, I say that with so much joy, but also a lot of relief, because I said yes to doing my very first TEDx Talk, and I did it live just a few weeks ago. And so many of you have been asking me about the experience, and I thought this was the perfect conversation to have on Coffee with Kelly, so I can answer questions you all have been asking me and really just kind of walk you through the process and the journey of why I said yes, what it taught me, and how can you use those lessons that I learned through this experience in your own growth journey. So I was taking notes yesterday and really journaling a lot through this process, and I can't wait to dig in. So Coffee with Kelly community, if you are ready, we're talking about TEDx and how you can apply lessons that I learned through this experience in your own life, whether you want to do a TEDx talk yourself or something you're trying to grow and stretch your life in. So let's get started. And I'm going to take you back. I want to give you a little bit of the context of how I actually got on the red dot, I like to call it, the TEDx circle. But it really started 8 years ago. And that was, I want to say it was about 10 years ago, 2016. And I remember we had heard the announcement that TEDx Boca Raton was officially going to be launching in South Florida. And I remember seeing that announcement and saying, oh my God, that's like, I've never been to a TEDx event. I've always wanted to go and learn how those happen. And I joined one of my very good friends at the time, Kristen Galucci, and she and I both said, let's go, let's check it out, because her plan was to speak there the following year. And so I remember it was at FAU and we got to the event and you could just feel the energy and the vibe in the room. Like it was something new, something fresh that was coming to our community. And everyone was so looking forward to it. And so we were there, we were in the audience in this big auditorium. And I remember on intermission so clearly, the MC of the event, she asked for volunteers to come up and share just an introduction about themselves. And if you all know me, for the most part, like I'm not shy in that sense, and I love inspiring audiences. So I'm like, hey, it's just a chance for me to practice giving an inspiring message. So I volunteered, I got called up on stage, and she didn't tell us what she was going to do until we got up there. And the MC looked at us, there were two of us, and said, this is your moment. If you were going to give a TEDx talk today, what would you want the audience to know? And in 10 seconds, we had to come up with an idea that we wanted to share. And I say this because I don't know if any of you practice manifestation, but I'm a big believer in manifesting what I want to achieve in my life and dreams that I want to go after. I'm a very visual person. My number one strength is futuristic. So it's so natural for me. I visualize and I can see things that I want to create and what I'm going to do. And I said, you know what, this is the moment. I'm just going to go for it because I can see it. And I was inspired. And I grabbed the mic and I had 30 seconds and I said, I envision myself being on that red dot, and I pointed to the stage, that red dot one day. And I believe I can do this, and I'm going to work hard. And so all of you join me on this journey when it happens. And the audience was like erupting into cheering and clapping, and they were excited because I was just claiming a moment that I saw in my life happening. And have you done that in your life? Like, what are you manifesting in your life? Because a lot of things I've done that for have really come true. But long story short, 10 years later, I did my first TEDx talk. But there's more to this that I want to unpack because I guarantee you I'm not the only one that is doing this in my life, that you're doing in your life as well. And so I think about this because that moment I claimed that I wanted to do it, but for 10 years, I applied to TEDx Talks and got rejected. I thought about it and then just gave up on the idea because I felt like, I guess I'm not good enough. So nobody's picking me for this stuff. Why bother? And I just really just let it go. And I said, I'm just not really interested in doing it. I'm just not ready. And every year, another application process would come forward and I would avoid it. I ran from it because I was afraid of it as time went on. And so what kind of journey in your life or what kind of stretch goal are you thinking about, but you are running from in your life like I was doing for so long? And so for 10 years, I just packed it away. I just said, never mind, I'm not interested. And I just didn't pursue it, honestly, until this year. And so this year, 2026, when the opportunity came and it was coming back to TEDx Boca, something in me just said, Kelly, what are you doing? Do this. Don't be afraid of it. Go after it and see what you can learn from it. And it happened. So I'm saying this because many of us, we run from what we are afraid of because we've been rejected, or we run from something that we don't think we're good enough for, or we're not willing to do the work to challenge ourselves because it's going to take work to do it. And that's no lie. And I'm going to talk to you about that process. But one of the big reasons that I said yes was because of someone in my life spoke inspiration into my mind. And I want to give credit where credit is due. Last year, I had the opportunity to have a mentoring lunch with an amazing woman by the name of Shantae Lowe. If you don't know Shantae Lowe, she is a former Olympic gold medalist, and she is a fabulous keynote speaker and someone that I saw speak on stage a couple years ago, and her story just blew me away. And I had the opportunity to have a one-on-one mentoring lunch with her. And at that lunch a year ago, I was asking her how to be a better speaker and how to get myself out there more. And these are all things that you can learn about yourself too. So take this inspiration your way as well. But one of the things Shantae challenged me with was to do a TED Talk. And we talked about that. And I told her, I never really pursued it. I didn't think it was something I would enjoy doing. And she said, Kelly, you got to do it. Just do it. Challenge yourself. And when you've got an Olympian that's won gold medals before telling you that, you start to pay attention. You're like, listen, Kelly, do this. And I walked out of that lunch saying, you know what, maybe I should rethink what I've been running from. And so Shantae Lowe, I just want to thank you for that moment. You spoke to me, you spoke to my heart, and you really inspired me, because if we didn't have that lunch, I can 99.9% assure you that I would not have done the TED Talk. So you never know who comes into your life and who can change it. And Shantae, that was what you did for me. So I want to give you a few tips about this process. And so I was writing this down, and a lot of people have been asking, how do you really prepare for a TED Talk? Like, what's the process like? And I'm going to probably do a couple episodes on this, but I'm going to pull a few things that really I've been paying attention to through this process. And probably the biggest thing, the number one tip I'm going to share with you is you've got to find one idea. And when you think about doing a TEDx talk, it really is. It's not a keynote. It's not a typical speaking engagement. And I'm someone that speaks for a living. I do this all the time. But I really had to get centered on what was the one idea that I wanted to speak to help change the world. And so it's an idea we're spreading. And so for you, what is one idea that you can create clarity on? Because clarity creates impact. And as a speaker that does this full time, I'm used to speaking for 45 minutes to an hour to audiences, with a few hundred people in it to thousands of people in it. And it's not about having a lot of time when you have impact. And I say this because I want to share this with you. Impact isn't about saying more. It's about saying what matters most. And when you do a TEDx talk, you've got to have one idea in a very condensed amount of time and be able to be very clear in your message. And so what is one idea that you have within your mind that you want to get out there in the world that is worth spreading? And my idea was something that I've been really living and creating in my organization. As most of you know, I have a company that has leadership. We build leadership development programs for organizations, and we help train and develop leaders and their teams to live and create strengths-based cultures within their organization so we can create the greatest impact on employee engagement. And so my thought was that I wanted to share out there in the world is something that I've been studying for the past 10 years. And it's something that deeply affected me being on the other side of it in my corporate career. And my idea that I spoke on was that AI, so many people are worried about AI, and that AI is the biggest challenge in corporate America today. But I challenge that because I know AI is changing and evolving and always going to be, upgrading and getting bigger and spreading. But I really feel that AI isn't our biggest challenge. Our biggest challenge today, based on the work that I have done, is that the leaders of today are not prepared in their growth and development to lead their teams through the changes that are happening today and in the future. And so the idea I wanted to spread is that as individuals, no one is going to be in charge of our growth except us. And we have to own our own development and our growth because nobody's going to do it for us. And so that's what my idea was. And I had 10 minutes to create an idea that was worth spreading around that one idea I wanted to talk about. And so when you do a TEDx talk, the hardest part for me, just being honest, is condensing a message that you're used to talking for 45 minutes to an hour into a 10-minute space. And what that means, and probably one of the greatest lessons it taught me, was saying less is actually saying more. And so how could I take this idea that I had so much to say about and so much experience to share around and get it into a 10-minute message that could be concise, could be impactful, could be inspiring, and could have clarity and action on what people could do around my one idea. And so for me, the hardest part, honestly, that always scared me was how do I create a message in 10 minutes that has all of these things? And it's hard. I'm not going to lie. It was really hard. But one of the other things I learned in this process, and I'm going to share this as tip number 2, is people connect to humanity before they will connect with expertise. And I say that because, yes, I've been doing leadership development and helping leaders for the past 10 years grow and develop, but that expertise wasn't the only thing people want to hear in a TEDx talk. They want to have people with credibility, of course, but it's about the stories we can tell. And so what are the stories that you have within you in your life? You don't have to be a speaker to do a TEDx talk. There are people from all around the world that do TEDx talks that have never spoken on stages that do the most powerful, inspiring TEDx ideas because they have great stories to tell. So I'm going to give you 3 questions to be thinking about if you are considering doing a TEDx talk and you want to know what could you even talk about. So the 3 questions that I went through in my mind that you can use as well are, what experience changed you? So think about your life. What experience changed you that could be an idea worth spreading? And we all have experiences that can help other people that are going through the same experience. So think about your life, and we all have something that has been an impactful experience, and start writing down what are some of those experiences that you've gone through in your life. And people have talked about things you would never even guess, but we have someone last year, Lana, she talked about ADHD and how she dealt with that through her childhood. I heard someone talk about drones and how they are evolving because of his experience and how that shaped his life. I heard someone talk about being a teacher in Harlem and how her experience as a teacher helping kids get educated changed their lives and her life. So there's no perfect story, but your story is perfect for you to tell. So that's your first question. The next question is, what lesson came from it? So as an experience helped shape you in your life, what lesson came from it? And what did it teach you that could apply to teaching others? So think deeper on that. And then the third question I asked myself was, why does it matter to someone else? And that's an important question to marinate on, because coming from my perspective as a speaker, it's really easy and a habit I had to learn to break. People don't want to know about you as much. They want to know about how what you learned can help them go through an experience or a challenge that they're having. So you have to think about that in the process. And why does it matter? So for me, thinking about why leaders are not prepared in their development and growth, I had to think through back when I was experiencing that in my corporate career. And I lived that experience. I did not feel prepared to lead a team and be responsible for keeping people engaged, giving feedback, being accountable to people, and all of the responsibilities that came with leadership. And I lived through that. And because I lived through that, I could speak to it and the experience and then help others with the idea I wanted to spread around how could they use my experience and learning lessons to go through that experience that they were going through as well in their leadership journey. So think about it that way. And then tip number 3, and I think is probably the most important thing I learned through this process, is preparation. So whatever it is you are wanting to do in your life and you're manifesting, it's not going to happen on its own. You have to be prepared for the moment when it opens the door for you to seize the opportunity. And preparation for me really helped me build confidence. So those 10 years that I avoided the TED Talk, I was out there training, developing leaders. I was out there speaking to small groups, large groups, whoever would listen to me, to practice and prepare for the moment when it came to get on the red dot. And preparation for me gave me the confidence to say yes when Shantae challenged me to do the TEDx Talk. And one of the key things that I say looking back at this process as well is I believe, and I really believe, that the opportunity happened at the moment it was supposed to happen. Because I know now, as much as I was discouraged about the rejection I got along the way of being denied getting on that stage, I know now I had to live more of the experience myself personally and be more in the trenches with leaders out there in the corporate world and leaders trying to grow and develop and having these challenges going through change management and all of the processes that AI is bringing to our organizations and leaders, what they're carrying and the burden they're dealing with. I had to live with that and them for years and be with them through those journeys as well, because it gave me the preparation to be able to speak more to it from a lived experience. And so I say that because practice is a huge part of the preparation. And sometimes when you're getting rejected along the way, just keep going and practice what you know you want to change in the world, because that way you are preparing for the moment when your idea will be on that red dot and be worth spreading. So I wrote down just a few things here, just the biggest growth lessons. So I'm going to share these with you for you to really start thinking about, and how can you use these in whatever you're manifesting, whether it's a TEDx talk, whether it's starting your own business, whether it's going after a promotion, or just doing something that will really stretch you, going back to our word of the day. So biggest growth lessons for me in this process, number 1 was that I can do hard things, and so can you. And I totally know this after this experience of doing the TEDx talk, because it was the hardest thing I've ever done, 100%. It was uncomfortable. It was challenging. It was something that really stretched me, but I did it. I did it, and I can do hard things, and so can you. Number 2, when you decide what you're going to do, if it's a TEDx talk, my best advice is to speak from conviction and not perfection. People love people that are authentic, that don't have to be perfect all the time. Like, I've messed up on this podcast so many times, but it is. We just keep rolling. We keep going. But I speak from conviction in what I believe in. And so whatever your idea is that's worth spreading, speak from conviction. It doesn't have to be perfect. People love when they see that other people aren't perfect and they feel that they can relate to them. And this one is so important. So listen up. You cannot grow and stay comfortable. You cannot grow and stay comfortable. So are you looking to grow in comfort, or are you looking to grow in your calling? And for me, I want to be a speaker that gets on as many stages as possible. And that means I had to get uncomfortable. And I got better because I got uncomfortable. People need to hear your story more than your perfection. So what is that story within you? What is that idea worth spreading that people need to hear more than your perfection? And the biggest lesson this process taught me was courage usually shows up after action. Because for 10 years, I ran from the red dot because I didn't think I could do it. But looking back now, I did it. And I would do it again now because I took action on it. And now I know the process and I know how I would prepare better next time. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. And I want you to really marinate on this and take this back with you. But growth happens when we decide something matters more than staying where we are. So growth happens when we decide something matters more than staying where we are. So what is that in your life that you need to decide growth matters more on? Or are you just going to stay where you are? Because if you are someone like me that wanted things to change where I was, I had to stop blaming everyone else around me and hoping they would change. We're the ones that have to take action and make the change in our lives. And sometimes that means leaving what we know is comfort. And when we stretch ourselves, we can look back and say, if I never did that, I would never be where I am today. So what is it that you are willing to grow in? Because it matters more to you than staying where you are. That's it for this episode of Coffee with Kelly. I am super thankful for all of you. I hope this has inspired you to pursue, maybe it's your TEDx Talk next, or something that you want to manifest in your life. But until our next conversation, I will see you next time. Cheers, everyone.